Hey guys, how's it going? Today I wanted to talk a bit more about my dysphoria and how I live my life as a Catholic with dysphoria, what that looks like. I recently saw a talk, a little while back, from a Jason Evert, and if you're Catholic, you might have heard that name before. He talks a lot about chastity and the human person, and has recently talked about gender dysphoria, and trans ideology, gender theory, things like that. He's been talking about that kind of thing a lot. And he had to talk. He actually gave this talk, I believe, first at the National Eucharistic Congress. And I was actually at that talk, and I thought it was a really good talk, but he doesn't get everything right. See, in it, he talks about, in part of the talk, he talks about somebody who emailed him talking about what it was like trying to live with dysphoria. And what the way that they describe it is they were a man who has dysphoria, and they described hanging out with other guys like he was trying to blend in with a group of gorillas. He just felt like he just didn't fit in, and was always trying to do everything just right, and just to make sure that the gorillas don't understand. And I think that was probably the most accurate description of what dysphoria can feel like in the whole talk. And he gives other descriptions in the talk. And one of them that he talks about, he's used more than once. I've seen in other talks and other media sources as well that he's talked about is, he said, imagine having to wear clothes for the other gender for a day. Like, you wake up in the morning and you go through, if you're like a man wakes up, he has to wear skirts or a dress or something like that for the whole day long. And Jason Evert talks about how uncomfortable that would be, how that would make us so uncomfortable. And he recognizes that that's what it's like a little bit for people with dysphoria. That people with dysphoria every day live in that similar kind of discomfort. And this is the part of the talk that I understand what he's getting at. I see what he's trying to say, but as somebody with dysphoria, I hear that part of the talk and I think this was clearly written by somebody who just doesn't know what it's like. Because while that might be something basic to think about, that can get people thinking about how uncomfortable it might be, it's a good groundwork, but it's clearly not somebody who has gone through the actual struggle themselves, because the actual struggle itself doesn't look like that. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when I get dressed in the morning and put on all my normal man clothes, I don't think about it. It's not so obtuse in my life because that's a normal thing in my life. It may not be a thing that I'm most comfortable with. And when my dysphoria is particularly bad, then yeah, it can be really frustrating. Like, it's that feeling of, I just don't know what to wear today. Like, there's just nothing that I have that will be right. Like, that does happen. But because that kind of thing happens day in and day out, like, because I wear clothes day in and day out, that's not the kind of thing that dysphoria looks like in my life day to day. That's a thing that people might deal with. But what dysphoria itself looks like when going forward through my life, when I really struggle, is much deeper than the kind of discomfort somebody might get wearing the opposite gender's clothes. The problems, the psychological struggle, is something much deeper and harder to deal with. Something that I can't often just brush aside. See, the DSM-5 diagnoses dysphoria, and it's got a long list of criteria of things that that you can fulfill, but it's things that are focused on an incongruity of the brain's mental image of yourself and how it relates to your actual physical body. And that's not the words that the DSM-5 uses, but it's basically saying an incongruity in your own mental image of yourself and the primary and secondary sexual characteristics of the person. That's the basic definition. And there's a list of criteria that it goes through of different symptoms. But at its root, it's that fundamental disconnect between mind and body. And that is what it really gets at. So you can start to kind of understand that a little bit if you're thinking about wearing clothes. Like your brain naturally assumes you're going to be wearing one kind of clothing, and then you're going the whole day in another kind of clothing. Like there's a bit of disconnect there. But it's not just about the clothes. The reason trans people try and wear different clothes like that, part of it is just because they like it. And that's not a part that I think the church has much problem with. There's some questions to be looked through in that, but like that's not the problem. The problem is trying to disguise yourself as someone that you're not physically. So like you're saying, my brain is telling me I should be one way, and I am physically another way. So if you're wearing clothes of the opposite sex to try and hide what your physical body actually looks like, that's what the Catholic Church has some issue with. But that's still, like, again, the clothing thing, that's not really what dysphoria looks like as a problem. In my daily life, and I think in most people with dysphoria's daily lives, that's just not what it looks like. What it looks like for me is, there have been times, so I am actually a table games dealer at a casino. I deal blackjack. And so I sit there, I'm going through the movements, I'm dealing the cards out. And there have been times where I'm dealing the cards, 1 hand, 2 hand, 3 hand, 4 hand, 5 hand, 6 hand. And suddenly I'm watching my hands move and my brain stops connecting with what I'm seeing. There have been times where the best I can describe it is if you've ever put on a VR headset and watched a point of view video. So like somebody puts a GoPro on their head and you're watching that GoPro video through the VR headset from their perspective, and your brain knows this isn't me that I'm looking at. That's what it suddenly felt like for me, except I wasn't wearing a VR headset. I was standing doing my job, and suddenly my brain wasn't connecting with the hands that were right in front of me and connected to my body. It looked like a totally different person's hands, not mine. There have been times when I've walked into my bathroom and looked in the mirror, and instead of seeing myself and just being like, yep, that's me, I'm looking at me, I thought I was looking at somebody else. Like when you walk up to a stranger, there's something that triggers in your brain that indicates you're looking at a different human being. And when I looked in the mirror, that part of my brain triggered. That I was looking at a different human being, even though it was my own reflection. See, I understand what Jason Evert's doing and why he uses this example in his talk. And I think it is at least a good starting ground for trying to build up these spaces in Catholic communications, in trying to understand what people with dysphoria go through. And it might be a basis to go off of for somebody who doesn't have dysphoria to maybe try and understand a bit, but it really doesn't follow. See, the real problem, what people with dysphoria deal with, is much deeper. It is not as surface level as I think that analogy makes it sound. That said, I do think it is important. I think what Jason Evert's doing is important. I love what he's saying in terms of how Catholics ought to be connecting with people with dysphoria. That we have a real mental struggle, that we're really going through something hard, and that oftentimes the church doesn't offer us good conclusions. So That's what I'm trying to talk about today. I'm trying to bring out my own experience so that other Catholics out there, maybe that's you. If it is, welcome. Please stick around, watch my other videos. Please comment. Tell me what you want me to talk about, what you would like to hear, or tell me about your own experience. Like, I want to hear that kind of thing. Because here's where I want to build community for people like me who want to follow our Catholic faith, but just fail to see, like, we hear things like what Jason Evert says and is like, that's just not quite what I feel. That's just not really who we are. So here is where I want to build that community if we can. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. Comment, questions, concerns, anything you want to put in the comments down below, please stick it in there. I try to respond to every single comment. Some comments I even make videos on. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. That way you will see more videos like my videos, and you will see my videos in your feed anytime I upload a new one. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless.